Um, Thank you for having me today. Now we shift on to Southeast Asia. Today I'll be exploring, within the short span of the 7 minutes I was given, the creative and cultural initiatives within today's Malaysia, which sits precariously on the interstices between socially distanced physical realm and the smoothness of the virtual screen, which the bounded nation does not simply abide to. The slippages between the governing bodies and the disparate moving parts of our art and cultural ecosystem is further highlighted by the lack of public knowledge, support, and awareness of these practices that even our current Minister of Tourism, Art and Culture, yes, it is lumped together into one portfolio, struggle with identifying this absolute and immediate loss of income, opportunity, and space for public engagement and practice. So I will speak about the immediate remediation, or lack thereof rather, and the response on the governmental level, shifting to the practices on the ground to document, engage, and work around the current pandemic and the public sphere, known as the internet, and begin to tie these practices within the global networks, which the public space of the internet allows for, which I am no expert on, but must address in our current day and reality. So imagine 1 month before the pandemic, a sudden change in government happened on the 21st of February 2020. New people were suddenly in charge of new portfolios, compounded by the scramble to get the country ready for the to-be pandemic, and concurrently attempting to understand the needs and wants on the ground, facilitated by a love for bureaucracy, further divides the ministry and the arts and cultural workers. The movement control order, a partial lockdown in the country, was set in place on the 18th of March 2020, and thus slowly released until today. We're in a state of recovery, movement control order, whatever that may mean. Living in the shadow of the sudden confusing change of government, Minister Nancy Shukri, the new Minister of Tourism, Art and Culture, which now I'll call MOTAC because it's very long, was interviewed on Astro Awani, a national TV channel, on the 24th of April. She said that the arts would be the quickest to recover and that COVID-19 was a blessing in disguise. Many arts and cultural workers were dissatisfied with her performance and knowledge of the community, or lack thereof of knowledge of the community. So some responses included Reformatsi, as you can see here on the screen, an informal coalition of arts and cultural workers, collectively put on a statement titled Arts for Malaysians, not just for tourists, in April 28th, 2020, 4 days after the fated interview. The statement to the press cited Nancy Shukri's focus on digitalization aspects of art and cultural work, echoing the intention of like a previous 2009 national creative industry policy that was put into effect. She indicated that online competitions and the need for full-on live performance in the digital medium is sufficient for the arts and culture, and this lack of distinction between the two, digital and creative, appears to have clouded the judgment of the ministry yet again. So much later, now it's August, so 5th of June, the government put out a short-term economic recovery plan, Penjana, budgeted at 225 million ringgit, which is about 53 million US dollars, put to, again, the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, which is for digital uses, but apparently it's supposed to be for arts and cultural. Cultural and Economy Development Agency, and My Creative Ventures. So you can see here, finally we're acknowledged. So moving on, shifting to the ground, the cultural worker and artist Okwe Lala, who was in talks with various community members, start to engage on the first kind of example of the public space. This is a Google sheet that tabulated 174 events which were postponed or cancelled, and it started on the 16th of March 2020. This was circulated around to WhatsApp groups, social media groups, and phone books, which most of Malaysia lives by. And yeah, up to today, it's not really added to because we have now opened several of our venues, but this was like the first instance where we all came together. And as we move away from this kind of larger kind of scope, we shift to individual practices that started to use the internet as a kind of public space, as I argue for. So this is a Duduk Rumah artist, which is stay-at-home artists. Together, the 5 of them came together for this short period of time, and almost like an instant festival. And from between April 2nd to May 13th, They raised a total of 20,000 ringgit, which is about 4.7 thousand US dollars to provide for COVID-19 relief efforts. So, and beyond this instant network, they have since closed. They connect with people making music videos to politicians and engaging with a network of artists beyond this particular initiative. You can learn more about it if you go on their website. Another one, shifting a bit more wider to this is Festival Duduk Rumah that lasted for maybe about 2 months, as you can see here. And they collated all sorts of musicians and just put it online, on live, and raised money again for the COVID-19 relief efforts. Shifting to an online medium as a platform or a space that people can really engage and perform in. And this is Unrestricted Stage, which is an even more wider scope, which is a festival programmed by the community for the community themselves. It started on the 21st of March until today. They program every single weekend for people to kind of do whatever they want. They can draw art, they can talk about anything, as long as they email the facilitators. And these are examples which are kind of like instant initiatives that were put together online. Finally, there are these kind of community catch-ups facilitated by Penang Art District, which is a state kind of governing body, which facilitated art community discussions to have direct discussion with government workers, such as Izan Satrina, which is part of Cendana, as I introduced before, and also part of this Penang State Exco for Tourism Development, Arts and Cultural Heritage. So here is a kind of like opening up to have engagement with the people, and everyone are welcome to join in at any point, at any time. Following this, they also gave the Zoom account. The Penang Art District gave the Zoom account to everyone to use because it is expensive here for Malaysians. That's another form of kind of like, engaging with the community, giving it out to people. So, but then before we kind of use the internet as just a leeway and a kind of shortcut to become public sphere, we must acknowledge the fact that scholarship on the internet as a public sphere is also kind of limiting due to the fact that even though 80 to 90% of Malaysians are said to have internet access via a smartphone device, the quality of this access is not a statistic that is available for us. And it only alluded to a smartphone device, not necessarily a computer or a laptop, therefore failing the initial intent of what the minister wanted, to shift everything online. It would really affect our experience. And I think that's important to kind of think about the quality of like using these online platforms. How would this kind of affect how we engage with people online? Not everyone has a laptop here. You can see here, most of Malaysia is the normalized landmass color, which means that they don't have access to very good internet. And it's only on the urban nodes or urban spaces. So yeah, that's my research thus far. I am part of this larger project called Creative Hubs in Malaysia, and we are funded as Louisa kindly introduced me. And we are tabulating and collecting data on what we call creative hubs, which I call arts and cultural collectives within the context of Malaysia, and to kind of analyze and kind of do an overall mapping of it. So this is what the project that I'm part of is, and we are still just starting out. Thank you.